Thank you for joining us. My name is Stephanie Holderfield with Citizens Defending Freedom. I'm the Executive Director, and I have the pleasure and honor to have KrisAnne Hall with us. We're just going to sit here and kind of let the vibe go and talk to Kris just for a minute about her thoughts on the Constitution, the importance of sheriffs, and Harris County. It's Kris. Thank you.
Yes. So I think the sheriffs are so important, I made a movie about it. So we have a whole documentary, 54 minutes long, about the importance of the sheriff. My book, Sovereign Duty, has a whole chapter on it. We have a portion of what we do when we travel and teach the Constitution across America is devoted to sheriffs. I mean, I wrote a 3-hour sheriff's training course because I was a prosecutor in the state of Florida, and I taught at the academies. I know what they're taught. I know what they're not taught. Plus, traveling around the country like I have, I've met all kinds of deputies, police officers. I've talked to them about what they learned, and I know what they've learned and not learned. Do you know that taxpayers pay out over $1 billion every year for wrongful arrests?
Incredible.
That could all be remedied if we spent time teaching our officers in the academies about the Constitution.
Absolutely.
That their duties are to secure rights, not to trample them, not to blindly enforce the law or to egregiously enforce the law. And all too often, the academies just have a very bad perspective. And that's why it costs me and you $1 billion every year.
That's incredible. So, KrisAnne, how can people find more of your information, find out about your educational components? What do they need to do to find those areas?
Well, our main hub is pretty easy if you know my name. It's KrisAnneHall.com, KrisAnneHall.com. And then you can get everywhere we are. Our training platform, Constitution Training, American History, we are LibertyFirstSociety.com. And we're unique, I think, because the delivery of the education is, number one, guaranteed to be historically accurate because we don't teach from textbooks that are, created, vetted by the government. What we do is we take actual original source history, the people who lived the history, the people who wrote the Constitution, and we teach all from that. And that's the only accurate way you can have history. And it's presented, like tonight, with such simplicity that a middle schooler gets it. And I mean, not just like, oh, that's cool, like really gets it, but with such depth that even the most intense scholar will learn. I've taught out here in Texas. When I was done teaching, a man came up to me and he said, you don't know this, but I'm a retired Supreme Court justice here in Texas. He said, I've learned more from you about the Constitution in an hour than I did in my entire legal practice. And I really don't take that like a compliment on me, but more of an indictment on our education on the Constitution. I just feel incredibly blessed to be someone who can be the facilitator of this.
So it's important to know the Constitution, what it says, and how to apply it.
Yes.
I think that's what's important, is that history is history. There's so much depth of knowledge in our history. It's not being taught properly in our schools. School systems are mandated to teach the Constitution, at least 1 week of it. It's not being done in Texas schools, which is a shame. So, but the application. So me as a parent, if I go to a school board meeting and I'm being shut down, if I know the Constitution, the United States Constitution and the Texas Constitution, does that empower me?
Oh, absolutely. It does empower you. And we have to be knowledgeable. Samuel Adams said this: no people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor be easily subdued. Remember, was empower me. I will not be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. He said, on the contrary, when we become universally ignorant and debauched in our manners, we sink underneath our own weight without the aid of foreign invaders. So It's the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding, not just simply about the Constitution, but what is the proper role of government? What is the proper limit of government? What is the proper operation of government? All of these things we find from our foundational documents. All these things are knowable to us. We've been deceived for so long in this elitist ideology that you can't, you're too dumb to know the Constitution because you didn't go to law school. Can I tell you, I graduated from the University of Florida, which is classified as an Ivy League school, with 300 classmates, right? Mm-hmm. Barely any of them actually opened the Constitution of the United States. I travel around the United States teaching not just the U.S. Constitution, but state constitutions. You know, we talked about the Texas Constitution today. Every time I teach a state constitution, without fail, someone will come up to me afterwards and thank me. And then they'll whisper in my ear, I wanted to thank you for teaching me about my state constitution. I didn't know I had one. We have been so negligent of state and local. So many Americans don't even know they have a state constitution. They think everything is off in Emerald City, you know. Right. The only constitution is the U.S. Constitution. Our state constitutions are more powerful.
So I want you to talk briefly about how the states granted authority to the federal government.
Well, it's a very simple concept when you understand how it works. Okay. So on July 2nd, 1776, the Continental Congress declared that we were no longer colonies. We were now 13 independent sovereign states. They did this through a document called the Lee Resolution. The Lee Resolution had 3 objectives. Number 1, we are now independent from Great Britain. As number 2, as independents, we must immediately gather for an alliance. Because now what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to kick Great Britain off the land they think is their own. And we don't have the manpower or the resources to do that. So we need to get a foreign alliance to help us. Number 3, we must immediately form a confederation of states to preserve the independence and liberty that they just declared on July 2nd. So we immediately moved into the Articles of Confederation, which clearly set out that the states were creating a union of mutual friendship for their mutual benefit. In the course of this mutual agreement, they wanted to create a central government for a single purpose: to be an ambassador on behalf of the states in foreign affairs. Now, they did this very quickly because they had to do it very quickly to centralize, to organize in their common defense. Remember, the preamble of our Constitution talks about common defense. So we had to form this union so we could work together to eliminate the power control over us by Great Britain. Well, they quickly discovered that the Articles of Confederation created such a vague government that the federal government didn't know really what it was supposed to do. Sometimes it was trampling on the states. Sometimes the states were trampling on the federal government. Nobody really understood how it went to go. So they got together again in convention, and that's how we get our Constitution. So our Constitution is a contract between the states that created the federal government. The states are the parties to the contract when we speak contract law. The federal government is the product of the contract. So our states are actually the creators of the federal government, which in reality makes the states the higher power over the federal government. And as the 10th Amendment says, the powers not delegated to the United States are reserved to the states. That word delegated means a temporary trust of authority or responsibility from a higher power to a lower power. The states delegated a portion of their authority to the federal government to represent them in foreign affairs and to help them organize for common defense, as long as they do the job the Constitution requires them to do. The states didn't surrender power. They delegated it for a certain task, which makes the states the boss over the federal government.
Well, isn't that interesting? American history.
I know. I hope that wasn't like too much, but it just sort of flows, and and I just want people to really understand how simple it is. When you hear it in pieces and you hear it like, wait, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I didn't have to go to law school to know that. I just have to know the definition of the word delegate.
KrisAnne, thank you so much for being with us here in Houston, Texas.
Oh,
we'd love to have you come back.
Oh, absolutely.
Have
Anytime.
you come back. So we've got you on recorded right here.
Yes.
We're recording you. We will have you come back.
Yep.
But people know how to reach out to you. You've just given your websites where people can learn. They can sign up for your classes and really get a more in-depth understanding and then learn how to apply those principles throughout our daily living, because that's what's important. We have to understand what rights we really have, who provides it, which is not the Constitution, is our creator. And then understanding the hierarchy of the rights of the states above the federal government.
Right.
And I think that is so important.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
That's why I like CCDF so much, because you guys, you have your focus right. It's state and local. That's where the people have power. And that's how our founders created it, where more power is reserved to the states because the people are in the states where they control the power.
We need your ongoing donations in order to continue our offensive efforts. Click on the link below to schedule a one-on-one call with CDF Harris County Director Stephanie Holderfield. Thank you for being in the battle with us. Remember, local light, local action. This is the way to win America, one county at a time. Until next time, this is your fellow Harris County citizen, Joshua Grice.